Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish out today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. If you have your own special selection that you'd like to submit, you can find a link to do so in the description box below. Today's special selection comes at us from Christopher. It says, Silent Planet, Terminal Liminal. A short summary of the meaning of this song by the vocalist Garrett. Terminal was another song from this album that was inspired by my stay in a mental hospital. For most of my life, I've been a very sober person, and this song is about my experience with mind-altering medication while being inpatient. As I took my meds, I watched the world shift around me, and even my own reflection started to shift. It was during all of this I began to wonder if the hopelessness was buried too deep for medication to solve on their own. Maybe, I wondered, this is simply the human condition. So that's what we're going to check out today. We got some Silent Planet Terminal and Liminal, I suppose. It says Terminal/Liminal. I don't know if that's two songs or not. I guess we're going to find out. Let's dive into this and see what's going on.
Hi, birthday boy. Happy birthday. How old are you today? How old are you today? Are you two? Are you two?
Very haunting already. Oh man, they came in hard. I like that delayed accent too on B2. Oh no, it's on beat 1. So they do 2 and 4, except for on the second every other repetition. I'm really digging this section with the vocals being drowned out by all the music. They continue to find new and inventive ways to keep the song sounding just slightly unkilter. Man, did anybody else forget to breathe there in the last minute? God, that was tense. Um, I think it'd be best if we split this up into two areas, terminal and what I'm going to perceive as liminal. The final minute was drastically different from the first half. And, man, still trying to shake that music video. Just a really good multimedia project right there. So yeah, let's dive into terminal first. Um, so interestingly, I thought there were two vocalists. I don't remember that last time we checked out Silent Planet. But what really threw me off is that the one vocalist started out doing clean vocals, and then the other vocalist did clean vocals, and then we went back to the first one, and from here on out, they were doing harshes. And I thought that was interesting how they didn't choose to ever have a moment where they aligned. I would have loved to hear the cleans and the harshes overlapping and providing some textural harmony there, or them both doing cleans and providing traditional harmony. That would have been really cool to have, and they seem to actively go out of their way to do it, even in the moment near the end of the track when they had both vocalists singing in the same section for the first time. They still gave them space. It was sort of a call and response thing rather than simultaneous. And so I thought that was an interesting idea to go about doing. I wonder if it plays into any of this idea of mental illness and duality that we see present. I mean, not only just in the idea that we have this this person in a mental institute and the medication is making them hallucinatory, but also looking at the music video and pulling out this idea of their real self in the institute and then the self that they create in their memories, and creating these situations for themselves. And this idea about the vocals, other than just the fact that we don't ever hear them together, I think it's also interesting how the vocals are handled in the mix. So there really isn't a moment of the song where we don't have vocals. We have some transitory ideas that are completely instrumental, but for the most part, a lot of this track has vocal aspects to it. And they start out extremely crisp and clear. They're mixed above the rest of the band. There's not a lot of compression on them. They are a bit quieter, but that just goes with the vibe of what they're aiming for at the beginning. However, as time passes, there seems to be more and more work being done on the vocals, both vocals, from a production standpoint, whether it is adding compression or lowering volume or probably a couple of things I don't realize are going on. And by the end of the song, even the screams are being drowned out by everything else around them. I think it's an interesting way to go about creating this idea of hopelessness, that the one thing that we have that we can reach out to people best with, which is our voice. It's the way that we transmit our thoughts and have people understand us. The voice is a very, very powerful part of one's identity, of one's self, of feeling human, and of connecting with people. And to be robbed of that is very disheartening. It's very dehumanizing. And for the music to overcome that to the point where you can barely hear the dude screaming anymore. I mean, it's not even like the dude is using those soft, clean vocals from the beginning. He's got this full on fry vocal, and it's just getting completely overpowered by the music. It's a powerful image. It really is. But I think what amplifies it is not just the idea of the music overpowering, but also what the music says, what the music does. You know, let's take a look at some of the musical elements in here. We have distorted guitars. We have a rhythmic structure in the drums that refuses, well, actually, it's in the drums and everything. It refuses to stay in line, it refuses to conform. And we have some environmental stuff that kind of gives elements of oddity or unnaturalness to the song. And none of this even looks at some of the extra amounts of reverb and production techniques that goes into some of these sections, especially the quieter sections when we go into more of that clean electric guitar sound. And provide a lot of reverb to enter more of a dreamlike state. There's a lot of aspects in the music that imply a dissonance, a break with the reality. So we have on those clean guitar sections, we have the reverb. We have a little bit of compression in there. We have some other elements that I don't know the names for, but it all comes together to create a guitar tone, especially when you mix it with that synthesizer tone that plays around with it. It creates this ethereal vibe. This is the slower sections. It's dreamlike. It's unrealistic. It's fuzzy. It's hazy. There's an element of it that lacks the clarity of a perceived, or no, of a true reality, I suppose. Most people don't typically see the world as fuzzy or hazy. That's more of a Hollywood gimmick to imply the idea of a dream or a memory. But here they found a way to capture that visual aesthetic auditorily. And it's really cool to hear the music already kind of give way to this idea of a break with reality. You know, he was talking about the medication they were putting him on made him hallucinate, right? And that's exactly the kind of feeling that I get with this. It's wavy, it's kind of ethereal, it's very ghost-like, it's intangible. Those sections completely create that vibe, that feeling, and I think it works very well again with the music videos storytelling here of imagining and creating memories of things that didn't happen, utilizing faces that you see every day into hallucinations that you eventually internalize as memory. And, we'll get to this in a bit, but the haunting fact, the haunting realization, when you come back to reality, that all those memories you have are fake. Who is a person if what they remember is not what really happened? Are we a collection of our memories, of our actions? And if what we believe to happen is not what happened, are we more than that? What is a life lived that is not as exciting as the life we perceived we had? There's a lot of interesting questions about the self that come into focus because of some of the things that they're exploring here, lyrically, musically, even visually, when we look at the multimedia project altogether. And a lot of it, to me at least, is haunting. It's very scary. I think they did a fantastic job of incorporating that fear as an underlying element to some of these sections. There's well, maybe it's not necessarily fear. Maybe I interpret it as fear, but there's definitely elements of this song that are uneasy, right? There, maybe it's some dissonance, maybe it's a very abrasive texture. It's little elements here and there. It's the fear underneath, right? And I think for a lot of this song, it's it's sort of those red flags that, for whatever reason, you're missing. You know, assuming that he believes that he's having this relationship with this person, maybe the red flags aren't as visible because he's having the time of his life. These are the best days, and the last thing he remembers is being dropped off at a at uh, a mental institute, and you know, why look a gift horse in the mouth kind of idea. Things are great now. There's a couple of odd things, but just going to dismiss them. Maybe no different than having a dream. You know, there's a lot of things that, at least when I wake up from a dream, I'm like, man, that was weird. But in the moment, in the dream, nothing really seems odd or out of place. You just kind of accept the dream rules, the dream physics. And I think that's what's happening here. It really isn't until the song Liminal when that stark realization happens and that fear really kicks in. I think that's why Liminal, at least to me, was a song that made me forget to breathe. My chest tightened up during that song. It is, I had a physical reaction. It's very impactful. And I think it's a lot of the red flags, the fear elements in Terminal come to light, taking over the song as a whole. I feel like I've drifted off of topic, but whatever. um, but yeah, just I mean, just really great storytelling there. Jumping back to the production though, um, actually, did I touch on it all? The effects in the soft section, that kind of give it that ethereal waviness, and the effects near the end where it compresses up the vocals and brings everything else up, and touching even on some of those red flag, fear, kind of scary sounds tossed throughout. Yeah, I think I touched on everything production wise I wanted to. Um, and even music. I mean, I already touched on some of the musical things and what they were aiming for with those. Um, Man, maybe it's time to move on. I covered everything. I'm usually not that concise. Usually have to take a while to get around to everything, but dang, I hit everything at once. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about here. There's not a lot of musicality to what's going on. A lot of it is environmental. It is text. Oh, the one thing I forgot: the drums, the rhythmic aspect. So we'll do this, and then we'll jump into the lyrics. The rhythm of the song is a pretty standard backbeat rock pattern. We have cymbals, snare, and bass that comprises the majority of what the drums are doing. And what we see is an emphasized 2 and 4. You can hear the snare hit on beats 2 and beat 4 of every bar. Well, every other bar, isn't it? Yeah, because every second bar in this loop, beat 4 does not get an emphasized hit. In fact, it gets no hit. There's a lack of conformity to it. There's a lack of presence, even. There's something missing here. And you can immediately feel it, even if you're not looking for it. I didn't even know what beat what beat it was on. I had to wait a couple of times to figure out exactly what was happening. But as soon as, I mean, it must have been the second bar of the song, or the second bar that the drums were part of. As soon as it happened, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I enjoyed it. I think I even brought up how I thought it was cool how there was a delayed strike there. And actually, it wasn't delayed, it was completely missing. We got two, and then four, and then two, and then two. We completely skipped the four over. And yeah, it's the little thing there that I think adds a lot to the story. It is about nonconformity. It is about something missing. I think there is even a line in the lyrics about, is this something that's uh, medication can't heal, or something like that. Like analyzing it as an issue with the body. I heard the word cancer a few times. I'm not sure if that was literal or figurative. Being that he's in a mental institute, I'm going to guess it's figurative, but we'll dive into that when we hop into the lyrics. But yeah, there's this. There seems to be at least a little bit of an idea of something wrong with the body, right? The body doesn't want to be what the body should be. Maybe there's something missing. Maybe there's something added, but there's a lack of conformity. The body's doing something possibly against its own survival instinct, right? Against its own, not better judgment, but best instincts. A betrayal of the mind, I suppose, could be a way of seeing this. But also the idea of removing one's identity. I spoke a lot about identity, and especially losing the ability to speak and having that removed fourth beat strike there. The element of something that should be there but isn't can show up in all sorts of readings of the lyrical aspects here. So, yeah, it was one thing I immediately felt and was present all throughout the song. I'm pretty sure there wasn't a single section that didn't include this idea. The guitars took part of it at one point. The drums took part in it. It was present all over the place. And it's funny that a lack of something was present everywhere. It's a funny way to think about it. I'm going to dive into some lyrics here and see what's going on. Yeah, this is a heavy track. There's a lot of lyrics here, more than I kind of remembered. Um, and it's just so bleak, right? It really, you can, now that I know the words, I can really feel the desperation in the vocalist's vocals, the singer's vocals, especially when he shifts from the cleans to the harshes, and even just those really effortless, ethereal vocals that come in with the second singer. Just having those also feel helpless. It seems to be a back and forth between feeling helpless and trying your best to be heard, and entering that state of desperation, right? And jumping back and forth between the desperation not leading to anything, so feeling helpless, and then tired of feeling helpless and trying your best to be heard again, only for it not to work and to return to that helplessness. Um, and like I said, that idea paired with some of these lyrics is heartbreaking. I mean, it even starts out real heavy. It says, the hourglass is vacant, sand turns to medication. You can fill me, but I'll never be full. We are two lines in, and it's a gut punch. You can fill me, speaking of the medication, but I'll never be full. I will never be complete no matter how much medication you give me. And this is something that's going to tie into something we see later in the chorus, I think. Um, in the first verse, that's the intro. In the first verse, it says, "I count the pills, you count the time," bringing back this idea of the hourglass and medication. It says, "There's never enough to change my mind." Now, it's interesting because usually changing your mind is an aspect of having complete control over your opinion. You have an opinion, and someone else can bring new information for you to reevaluate your stance on said opinion so you can make that change. But it completely inverts into something insidious when you think of it as from the idea of somebody in a mental institution where they're trying to wrangle control of their mind, and that all the medication that they're giving him is not enough to fix it. Change my mind is a metaphor for fixing it, for not for him to change his mind, but for the mind to change itself. The medication is the one presenting new information on the opinion, and the mind itself is the one that has a stance that needs to be changed. It's a really, really nice way of saying that. But man, again, just such a gut punch. Especially the concept of, implying control over the mind, which most people believe they have, and subverting that and making it into an idea of wrestling control back. Just, God, man. Lots of concepts. Every stanza, third stanza in, fourth stanza in, four stanzas in, we're still talking about time in some way, some manner. The third one, I don't think has anything too big in it. Alliteration. No, an allusion towards the sea of the dead, bringing in the idea of salt, and says shaking hands with stillborn clocks. I stare to the east until time stops. So we have this idea of time again, but we've begun to see more of the hallucinatory aspect of his stay in this institute. And then the chorus comes in the first time that we hear it. And the chorus says, all these pills won't scratch the surface if the cancer's in my soul, am I terminal? And this brings in the idea that it's not something that can be fixed with medicine. It's an aspect of the body, something that's missing, that I'm kind of reading into, which kind of ties into that drum idea. And once again, another gut punch of a line. Every day is an anesthetic, dying young just to grow old. God, man. Dying young just to grow old. That is just. Also, there's an inversion. We've had two asks two asks of the medical crew. Am I terminal? Is this, issue with me or my brain, my mind? Is it something that can't be fixed? But there's an inversion of this. He says, dying young just to grow old in this terminal. Nice little play on words there. We have another little bit of hallucinatory imagery. We return back to the chorus, and then we hit the bridge. And this, I think, is where a lot of the desperation comes in the strongest. It is asking for anything to be done to fix him and get better. It says, burn the forest for the splinters, medicate the witch in me, drop the bomb and make it winter, take my hand like surgery. It is, you can just feel the desperation in there. An allusion to a nuclear bomb, the idea of burning an entire forest just to get rid of a couple of splinters. Do whatever it takes to get this out of my body. It's just, man. And then we have a repeat of a bunch of stuff we've already heard, including a return to this bridge of burning the forest. We get to hear that one more time at the end. Yeah. This entire song is it is heartbreaking from beginning to end, musically, thematically, lyrically. I don't ever want to hear this song again, because now that I know what's being said, I would probably burst into tears listening to it. It was heavy and affecting without even knowing what was going on, just feeling what they wanted me to feel, which I think they did a fantastic job doing. And that doesn't even call into question what's happening with liminal, which is just some of the most tense, fearful, agonizing, what was that, like a minute and a half maybe, moment of my life. I mean, it's not even weighty. Like, we're not talking like Crowless, old school kind of Crowless, just constant attacks, just really making music that is weighty and aggressive. This is weighty in intention. The notes do not stop. They are constantly in contrast with each other. There's just this instability to everything that's happening, and there doesn't seem to be, oh, it's 2 minutes long. There doesn't seem to be an end in sight for it. It just continues to exist. It is this uncomfortable aspect. I want to take my headphones off and throw them against the walls so I can ensure I never hear this sound again, but you can't. And you shouldn't. You should not turn away from this. The feelings that it makes me feel are exactly what they want me to. And it employs great empathy in me for the experience that this person had to go through, and the feelings they might have felt, the fear and the hopelessness and questioning the self after going through these events. I don't know, man. Like I said, work of art, not something I want to hear again, but I'm so glad it exists. I think they do a phenomenal job at sending the message that they want to send. So those are my thoughts on Liminal and Terminal from Silent Planet. This is where you guys come in, hit me up in the comments, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you felt, right? This song really affected me. Both of these songs, I guess. And I'm curious if anybody else felt any of that as well. And I guess let me know what you thought of my interpretation, and if there's anything that might have been officially said that could confirm any of my hypotheses about connections here. When you're done with that, you can head up to the description box. There's a link in there for Linktree, which will take you to this menu right here. You can join the Patreon and vote on future themes and songs. You can pick up some merch. You can follow me on Twitter. You can join the Discord community, submit your own special selection. There's just a bunch of stuff in there. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'd greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be looking at more otherworldly music, as well as another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.